Hi guys, welcome back. We're going to wrap up chapter 13, meiosis, talking about section 4, which goes over genetic variation produced in sexual life cycles and how that contributes to evolution. Mutations, which are changes in an organism's DNA, are the original source of genetic diversity. Mutations create different versions of genes called alleles. Reshuffling of alleles during sexual reproduction produces genetic variation. So the origins of genetic variation among offspring. The behavior of chromosomes during meiosis and fertilization is responsible for most of the genetic variation that arises in each generation. 3 mechanisms contribute to genetic variation: independent assortment of chromosomes, crossing over, and random fertilization. Alright, in independent assortment, your homologous pairs of chromosomes orient randomly at metaphase 1 in meiosis. In independent assortment, each pair of chromosomes sorts maternal and paternal homologs into daughter cells independently of other cells. That means it is not how the chromosomes are divided does not depend on where another chromosome is put into that cell. It does it completely independently. Okay? The number of combinations possible when chromosomes assort independently into gametes is 2 to the n power, where n is your haploid number. So for humans, n is 23. There are more than 8 million 2 to the 23rd possible combinations of chromosomes. Okay? Here's showing in figure 13.1 the independent assortment of homologous chromosomes in meiosis. Your 2 possibilities: 2 equally probable arrangements of chromosomes in metaphase 1. Possibility 1, possibility 2. Alright. Based on their assortment into metaphase 2, you end up with 2 very different scenarios at metaphase 2. So when those orient to whatever end of the cell, whatever pole they're pulled to, which will be whatever daughter cell that they end up going into, it's completely random chance of what chromosome it will receive. Okay? So in your daughter cells, here's just one example, 2 examples of the different possibilities of how those chromosomes could assort. Okay? Crossing over produces recombinant chromosomes, which combine genes inherited from each parent. Crossing over begins very early in prophase 1 as homologous chromosomes pair up gene by gene. In crossing over, homologous portions of 2 non-sister chromatids trade places. Crossing over contributes to genetic variation by combining DNA from 2 parent cells into a single chromosome. So, in a really broad example, this would be how you could have it's much more complicated but for example, this is how you could have your mom's hair texture. Mom has curly hair, and your dad's eye color. Say mom has curly hair and brown eyes, dad has straight hair and blue eyes. You end up with the curly hair, blue eyes. Very broad example there, but just showing how you can end up with genes from both parents due to crossing over. Okay, here's showing this figure's on 259 in your book. It's the result of crossing over during meiosis. So it shows your non-sister chromatids, this pair of homologs held together during synapsis. They're showing your chiasma, your chiasmata, if you're talking about one, where your crossing over can begin to occur. And anaphase 1 crossing over has occurred. And see, now you have sections of DNA represented by the opposite homologous color where sections of genetic material has been swapped. Okay, so when it assorts, a few alleles from one parent are taken along with the other sister chromatid, so you'll get 4 completely different variations on the parent's theme when you get to your daughter cells. Okay? Random fertilization adds genetic variation because any sperm confused with any ovum, or that's an unfertilized egg, the fusion of 2 gametes, each with 8.4 million possible chromosome combinations from independent assortment, produces a zygote with any of about 7 trillion diploid combinations. That's yeah, pretty staggering. Alright. Crossing over adds even more variation, so each zygote has a unique genetic identity. Alright, the evolutionary significance of all this genetic variation. Natural selection results in the accumulation of genetic variations favored by the environment. That's survival of the fittest. Traits that help increase an organism's likelihood to survive will be traits that are maintained throughout generations, where traits that weaken an organism's ability to survive will be traits that are weeded out. Sexual reproduction contributes to the genetic variation in a population, which originates from mutations. Okay. And this figure is on. Whoops. Make sure I give you the right figure here, guys. Hold on just a second. Alright, this figure is in your Chapter 13 review. I just want you to make sure that you understand what's happening at each phase of meiosis. These are just some review figure here. So before we get into review, let's back up just a minute into the genetic variation here for a second. Let's see. I had a couple of things I wanted to point out, and then I'll tell you the things that you need to know. Need to make sure that you understand. I want to go back over to independent assortment for one moment. I'm sorry, I'm going to click back through. Okay, independent assortment. I guess I've said about all I want. If you have questions on this, guys, please feel free to ask me. I feel like there's a lot more we could get in to talk about this. This would be good discussion for Friday, so make sure to bring your questions on this. I just have to see what you understand and what you don't as to how, to where I need to go with this to help you understand. It's pretty straightforward. The main idea of section 4 is a very short section. Is that meiosis provides genetic variation where mitosis does not. Some of the ways that meiosis creates the variation, genetic variation, is created in meiosis is independent assortment, crossing over, and that random fertilization. So all of these possibilities, different possibilities together, just dramatically increase the variation. It's really quite astonishing how you end up like you are based on all of the possible variation that goes into, each zygote with, 70 trillion plus diploid combinations. an interesting thought to remember. Let's see. If there's anything else I need to point out, let me double check, guys. Alright, that's about all there. So, again, with the evolutionary significance, if it weren't for this genetic variation, our species would any species would probably not survive for long. The flow and the flux of genetic traits is very important to a species survival. Honing in on traits that give it a competitive advantage in nature are very important. Those are ones that are maintained through the population. That's why the individuals that carry these traits that enhance the ability for survival, for lack of a better way to put it, seem more attractive. Those that carry traits that are of less evolutionary value, that are of less adaptive value, won't be maintained within the species for long. Alright, so let's go over to what you should now be able to do. Make sure that you understand these things, guys. For your test, make sure that you can distinguish between somatic cell and gamete, autosome and sex chromosome, haploid and diploid. Describe the events that characterize each phase of meiosis. Describe 3 events that occur during meiosis 1 but not mitosis. And name and explain 3 events that contribute to genetic variation in sexually reproducing organisms. So just what we've talked about, guys. Start with the overview and then hone in on just a few important details. I feel like you should have this, guys. This should be something that just deepen what you've already known just a little bit. We will discuss, review, answer any questions that you have during our work session on Friday. So make me a list. Your questions are what help spawn great discussion. Make sure to answer your checkpoint questions. Those are participation points. Stay on top of that. Thank you very much, guys. Bye.